Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
Okay. Good morning to all. Thank you, Aditi Certification Organization, for giving me this opportunity to present this paper, Good Agricultural Practices. So actually, this meeting, this presentation will be oriented towards the good agricultural practices, whether it may be organically grown or conventionally grown. So that system we are not going into depth, but normal good agriculture practices in the eye view of the farmers. So when you are listening to this thing, you have to deliver the same to the farmers so that they can practice these good agricultural practices, so that when they want to get this GAP certification, it will be of highly helpful. And at the same time, these type of practice, that is maintaining records and everything, it will be whole good for organic certification too. So So what is good agricultural practices? The producing good wholesome agriculture produce, ensuring food and environment safety. That is the most important thing. We have to produce wholesome agriculture produce, but it has to give the food and environment safety to the product also. Then the next thing is farmers should adopt techniques which satisfy the above and fetch a good price for their produce in the market. So they have to take up the good agriculture practice in such a way they have to get very good price in the market. That is the ultimate goal from the farmer's side. Then where the process has to start, the good agriculture practices has to start from the soil. When we are working out with the soil health, from soil to the retail market of the produce, we have to take care of these practices. Okay, now FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, has given a definition for GAP. Here, according to them, it is a collection of principles to apply on-farm production and post-production process, both in the on-farm production and the post-production, resulting in safe and healthy food and non-food agriculture products. So these good agriculture practices will hold good both for food agriculture products and non-food agriculture products. And in the same process, we have to taken into account economic, social, and environment sustainability. So these are the highlights. Okay, we have to take economic, social, and environmental sustainability in producing food and non-food agri products with certain principles. That is the gap. Okay, what are the benefits of gap? When we are going into the benefits of gap, first thing is it promotes sustainable agriculture. Second, it will be automatically meeting national and international environmental standards in farm produce. It also improve the safety and the quality of the foods, because when you are adhering the practices, automatically we will get these benefits. Then automatically we will implement the food regulations of India, and periodically we will check the residual toxicity. This residual toxicity checking will ensure better food quality and safety. Then other points are, it encourage culture of food safety, and it optimize the human and natural resources in agriculture. It's the most important thing. Right now we are facing labor shortage. So here, when we are adhering to the good agriculture practices, we have to use the human and agricultural resources in an effective manner. Automatically, we will be getting better price for the produce. And since we are going with good agriculture practices with a certain set of rules and regulation, indirectly it will give secure and strengthen to the livelihoods of the small and marginal farmers, because they can enter into a group gap certification program. Then facilitating market access. So when they are in a group or in a community level farming, it will facilitate the market access too. So when you are adhering the good agricultural practices, directly or indirectly or automatically, you will practice this systematic scientific approach towards the crop production. And invariably, it will give professionalism in farming. So here we are going to see the practical approach of how we have to maintain the good agriculture practices in your farm. Mainly, this is for small and marginal farmers. Here, this system will help the farmers uh, to convert themselves from farming to farm business, farm as a business. Now, right now, they are doing as a lifestyle system. But when they are adhering this good agricultural practices, automatically it will take up a business role. Then they have to maintain the farm calendar operation, how to maintain farm record maintenance, and the importance of participating in various training programs, adopting techniques related to good agriculture practices, ensuring food, social, and environment safety. So in this lecture, we are going to see all these things in little detail. But all these details are also basics of good agriculture practices only. So when we are going to have an advanced program, then there comes the gap certification, how we have to apply for the gap certification and all. Right now, we are going to speak about how farmers can adhere good agriculture practices with the support of consultants like us. First, farming to farm business, how it is going to convert the lifestyle, the system of farming into farm business. So in farming as lifestyle, what we will do, major difference we are going to see here. Farming as lifestyle, there we won't be having much planning. Okay, so there won't be any proper planning. But when you are doing as a farm business, any business need proper planning. So here the farm business also needs proper planning. And in as a lifestyle, we won't have a proper budgeting. Here we should have proper budgeting, and we have to work it in a way that how much it will cost and how much revenue we will be getting in from this. Everything, both income and expenditure, we have to work it out in a paper, and we have to go for the farm business. Then as a lifestyle, normally we will go with less technology adoption, and here the farmers, they will do what they knew. Okay, most of the in our India, to be frank, the farming is not taken in a, the farming income. Actually, the income from the farming is not taken into good level because of this thing only. The farmers, they will take up farming with the process what they knew or what they practice for a long time, and they won't have a proper technology adoption. So when we are taking this good agricultural gap program, they have to adhere to this proper technology adoption. Then here, lifestyle, they as a farming as lifestyle, they will out their focus will be on the produce. Okay, how much quantity they will get and how they have to go to how they will be getting an moderate income from that. But here, along with the quantity and the price, we should have an eye on the quality too when we are doing farm as a business. Here, as a lifestyle, uh, it will be blend with the lifestyle approach. Okay, the 1 or 2 days, if they can't go to the farm, okay, they will leave it. And so there is no proper approach will be there. But when you are taking this farm as a business, you should have the professional approach, and we have to engage some person to supervise the farm in our absence. So these things we have to take care of. Here in farming as lifestyle, we will be having less manpower, but here we will be we should have more manpower, but in that we have to use the manpower efficiently. That is the most important thing. And here machinery involvement will be less. here we can go for the farm business. When you are taking GAP program, we can take up traditional methods of farm practice or scientific methods of farm practice using innovative ideas. So you can include the possible practically feasible machinery technology wherever possible. Next comes the important. These we have to teach the farmers as a consultant. When we are going for a gap, when we are going as a GAP consultant, first thing we have to teach the farmers the farm calendar operation, or else as an advisor, as a consultant, or an farm certifier, you have to prepare this farm calendar operation according to the crops and the crop designs grown in their area, and we have to give this calendar of operation to the farmers. So I think as an agriculture graduates, you may be knowing this farm calendar operation. So from that, from this, even from soil preparation. So initially we have told no, from the soil to the retail market. So these practices starts from soil preparation. That is mainly the soil health maintenance, soil preparation and sowing and everything that which month we are going to do. Then irrigation, land preparation, harvesting, even pesticide spray, everything, all the up to post harvest management, we have to keep the calendar of operation. Then the other thing, we have to train them in such a way they have to maintain a farm record. Farm record. First of all, they should have the activity log or farm day register. Whatever happens in the farm or whatever the activity they are entertaining in the farm has to be recorded in writing in any notebook or or a set of paper. But or else they can give you as a WhatsApp message to you. They have to maintain this activity. Second one, they should maintain labor attendance register. How many laborers are coming? Because these will help them to work out their income and expenditure, the budget in future also. So labor attendance register should be there. Farm inputs register. So what are the farm inputs they are buying? Whether even if it is a farm made inputs, that also has to be recorded in the farm record. And if they are buying the farm inputs, even if it is an organic inputs or inorganic inputs, they have to mention that with the day, and they have to attach the bills along with that thing. Then accounting book. How much they have spent each and every day, how much they have spent, and what has been, what are the revenue. Because we will be in the good agriculture practices, we will also inform them the cropping pattern in which cropping pattern and design in wherein they will be getting any income from one part of the farm daily or at least one alternate days they have to get an income. In such a way the crop planning and designing will be there. So accounting, they have to have a credit and debit account, and what are they are going to purchase and how much they are spending or how much they are spending for the labor, everything has to be recorded. And at the same time, what are the revenue they got it, so that also has to be recorded. Then farm outputs register. How we are keeping farm inputs, like that farm outputs. Today they send some 10 kgs of bendi for sales, means that has to be recorded. Or some 100 bags of paddy, means that also has to be recorded in the farm outputs register. Then for each and every payments and for receipts, they should have the books. So bills, receipts and voucher is a must in good agricultural practices, and they have to file it. And when we are going as for inspection, they have to show us all these things. And as a consultant, I can suggest or recommend these things. For even a normal farm consultant, we can advise the farmers to maintain all these things. Then we have to enlighten them the importance of participation in various agriculture training programs. As far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, Department of Agriculture and Horticulture, they themselves doing many training programs. Apart from that, Atma, and agricultural KVKs also, they are doing their best in transferring the technology, the know-how to the farmers. I think in Bangalore, in Karnataka also, the government is doing a very good work. You can facilitate as a consultant, you can facilitate the farmers to such type of training, or else we can also give individual trainings to the farmers. So first we have to create awareness and training, and then only they will accept the our practices. They will know the importance of the scientific know-how. So once we have given the scientific know-how, either in the field level training, or we can give a village level training, or one-to-one training also we can give. So the training plays an important role. For example, if Aditi Certification Organization, they can um, uh, they can organize many such trainings, and these trainings can the participants can be the farmers. Okay, so that they may be before, even for organic certification program also we can take up this training program. Now as a gap, we are going with both organic and inorganic method of agriculture. But when you are going for the organic certification program, we can narrow down only to the organic production practices. Okay, first, what are the techniques we are going to adopt for good agriculture practices? This also we are going to see in a detail. Now I have highlighted the 4 points. Okay, farm safety, then soil health management, irrigation management, how we are going to select the seeds and planting material, cattle management, because cattle management will be always associated with any production technology of any agriculture production technology. Then integrated weed management, integrated nutrient management, integrated pest and disease management, energy and waste management, efficient post-harvest and processing strategies, what we have to take care of, food safety, environment safety, and worker safety. So, uh, these are the main headings we are going to see now. And these practices, these management practices, wholesome will give to the good agriculture practices. Here you can see the word that management. Okay, only we can manage the things in the agricultural practices. Always, we can't control anything, but that we have to have always in our mind. Even if it's a disease and pest, we cannot control only, we can manage the things, or manage the, and our ultimate goal is to get a productive, good quality and quantity produce. That's all. But for that, however, we have to see to the management practices. That's all. So these management practices, how we are going to implement, we are going to see in the future slides. Farm safety. First of all, when you are having a sizable farm, we can tell up to 5 acres, 2 to 5 acres, that small and marginal farmers. So these 5 acres, it will be a sizable farm, and it is a feasible, the feasibility will be also good when they are having a holding of 4 to 5 acres, when considering the human labor management. Okay. So first of all, farm safety, either they can go for live fencings with cactus or arid zone crops, or any like bamboo fencing. Whatever local material they are having in their places, they can go for a live fencing. Then if they are good at budget, they can go for barbed wire fencing. Then they can go for solar fencing, or even they can go for farm safety using CCTV and other digital mechanism. Remote security measures also they can take care of. Like even they can have a artificial intelligence in farm security. Okay. Next, we are going to see the soil health management. So when in good agricultural practices, the main focus will be on the soil one. The main focus won't be on the plant or the crops we are going to grow. First, we have to manage the soil. If you are able to manage the soil and you will bring the soil health into a good condition, automatically the plant growth and the production capacity will be more in the farm and that piece of land. So for that, first we have to see the slope of the soil. And if the sloping is not good, proper leveling and the proper land work has to be carried out. Even um, the farmers, we have to advise them that the investment which they are putting on in bringing out the soil to a good health condition, uh, surely they will get it as an income in the later stage. So soil health is the most important. So proper leveling, even the laser leveling is now available. So they can go for that laser leveling. So the gradient of 0.5% has to be maintained. Um, and the slope, they have to take care of the slope. Finally, it should ensure the drainage system in the farm as a whole should be good. Uh, and here they can do one thing. We'll be seeing that in irrigation management also. They can have the farm pond in the lowest part where the slope, when the where the slope is, um, what we can tell, the slope is more, and where the 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 deepest area in the farm we can have a farm pond also. So maintaining the organic content in the soil is more important. They can go for farmyard manure, cow dung manure, goat manure, or any other well decomposed compost. They can go for the enrichment of the organic content in the soil, and even they can grow green manure crops too. Third thing, they have to take care the erosion reducing techniques. Okay, like a planting of vetiver, or if it is a little slopy land or it's like a hilly land, then they have to go for the contour cultivation. So erosion reducing techniques we have to take care of, and even in situ erosion reducing techniques also we can go for. Then crop rotation. Always we should give a plan to them so that they have to go with a proper crop rotation in their field, and automatically with nitrogen fixation crops like pulses in between two crops we can go for. Then growing green leaf manure crops. So these the leaf manure crops, it is the best method to enrich the soil. So whenever your farm is without crops and is barren, kindly sow some leaf manure crops, and within 3 months, or when we see the first flowering in the green manure crops, kindly plow it in situ plowing. Go with the in situ plowing, so that actually these growing green leaf manure crops, we have seen practically a very good result in one farm in Chennai. It is managed by one big company. They are periodically, regularly, they are growing with the green leaf manure crop when that part of land is free of any crops. So automatically, it is giving very good enrichment to the soil, and the next crop is giving good production. Proper mulching. So always we have to, when we are growing plants in a part of land, always we have to be very careful in maintaining good soil temperature. Good soil temperature, because microclimate is one of the important thing. Apart from microclimate, normal climate and weather, okay, that we are taking in a broader angle. After that, we are going to concentrate more on microclimate, the climate around the plant. And the third important thing we have to take care is the soil temperature. The maintenance of the soil temperature in an optimized way will help the plants to grow well and to retain their moisture in the soil, and avoidance of pest and disease also depends upon this soil temperature. Then apart from all these things, we should have the proper soil and water testing in our farmland. We have to give at least once in 3 years. Once in 3 years, we have to give a soil. We have to send our soil samples to the testing lab. And if you are going for NABL and GAP and if you are going for organic certification or good agriculture certification, we should get the soil certification and testing certificate and soil and water testing certificate from NABL certified labs. Okay. So we are seeing this crop rotation, grazing. There's some pictures of that. Green manure crops. I think you may be knowing what are the green manure crops. If you want, you can note it down. It's Sunnem, Dainchar, Sesbania, then cowpea, cluster beans. So these type of plants. And one thing, Sesbania and all, it will also help us as a cattle food also. So in that way also we can select. Next comes the irrigation management. If I am little faster, kindly inform me. Because of the time constraint, I am going in a little fast in a quick way. If you are finding it difficult, kindly inform. Okay, irrigation management. Okay, what type of irrigation sources? First, we have to take care of the irrigation sources. And only thing, always have it in mind that in a farmland, we can manipulate soil and crop production and yield and quality, whatever things we can manipulate, and we can get it into a good production capacity. But the source, water source is not in our hand. The farmland has to be gifted by the Almighty to get the good water source. So, whatever the water source is there, kindly respect it, and you have to keep it in a reverent mode, and it should be treated in such a way, and it has to be treated in a very, very efficient way. So it may be either open well or bore well or river and canal based irrigation. But from my suggestion, I always prefer open well than bore well. But right now the costing is more. But when they are able to invest on a open well, always open well is the best water resource when we are going artificially to dig a well, or because open well will give you um, uh, most of the aquifers will be used in the open well than the bore well. Bore well only will be getting in the deep where they are getting the source alone, up to which depth the line is there, they will be getting it. But open well, the aquifer activity will be more than the bore well. So river and canal based irrigation, okay, that depends upon the government policy, and according to the government rules and regulation of the state or the central, we have to adhere it. This irrigation source, then next we have to see the quantity and the quality of the water. Since this quantity and quality of water, already we have spoken, this quantity we can check by our eyes. Quality of water, you can send the water for water testing, and you can get the quality of water. But depends upon the quantity, you have to design the crop pattern, or what are the crops you can, and how much you may be having 20 acres of land, but your water source only support for 5 acres. At that point, yeah, we should not go for 20 acres of cultivation. We can go for 4 acres or maximum 5 acres. So always you have to keep the water resource for extra 1 acre. Like that you have to decide it. So always decide the cropping pattern and design based on the water availability and not on the land availability. Then method of irrigation. Method of irrigation, as far as the trees are concerned, my suggestion is normally we can go for normal conventional watering method, and other or partial drip system. Because initial stages, I won't recommend for drip system for the tree crops, that is taproot tree crops. For coconut and banana, we can go for where they are having the fibrous root system. Tap root system containing trees, better we can avoid drip irrigation in the early stages. Unless otherwise your water resource is very much constrained, you can avoid a drip system in the early stages, because a normal surface irrigation water system will give a good taproot system. So for better anchorage, and the tree crops are going to be there in the field for around 30 to 40 years, means first the anchorage should be good. For building up that good anchorage in the initial years, better you can go for a surface water system, or one another system is there, trough watering system. In between two rows, I think some pictures will be there. In between two rows of the trees, we can duck trench of around some 2 feet width and 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet depth, and the water can be hold in the trench. There itself we can give the nutrients and everything, and we can mulch that area. That practice also can be done, so that the plant roots will come in search of water, and the anchorage will become. Then scheduling irrigation and following a pattern, that is also most important. If it is surface watering system, first we have to know the water holding water requirement of the plants and the water holding capacity of the soil. These both things will decide the scheduling irrigation and the scheduling pattern of the irrigation. So these things we have to have in our mind. Both the water holding capacity of the soil and water requirement of the particular crop. For example, if coconuts, it's 100 liters per day. It is if it is amla, it's only 15 liters per day. So if it is karaiza, only 5 liters. So accordingly, we have to decide it, and once in a week or once in 15 days, and also depend upon the crop age. That also an important factor for the scheduling of the irrigation. If it is for flower crops and vegetables and all, we are having an irrigation practice for a set of patch of land, can go for that. Okay, so when your water source is low, better avoid high water requirement plants. If at all you are going for high water requirement plants, you can go in a minimal level for your usage. For your home usage, you can, for example, if you are going for banana and coconut with paddy in a field where the water resource is low, ultimately you will end up in a trouble, because these three or the high water requirement plant. So accordingly, we have to plan the cropping pattern. And always we have to go for the farm in situ conservation and ex situ conservation practices. Whether your source is good or not, always go for some water conservation techniques in your field. Okay. Sprinkler irrigation, drip irrigation, flood irrigation, these and all depends upon the amount, quantity of water that you are having in your hand, in your field, and also the quality also decide the method of irrigation. So sprinkler irrigation, apart from all these things, we have to see the wind velocity of that area. If the wind velocity is more, or for a period of time the wind velocity will be more in that area, we should not go for the sprinkler irrigation at that place. Drip irrigation, we can go for, because around some 60% of the water we can save it. But according what I have said before, no, according to the crops chosen, you can go for the drip irrigation. Drip irrigation, the maintenance is the most important part. We should handle with utmost maintenance, and every time we have to maintain for that anti-clogging of the salts and all that, we have to take care. And when you are scheduling fertilizers along with this drip irrigation, we have to be very careful, and proper filtration has to be carried out, and all these things we have to take. Flood irrigation, for mainly for paddy we are doing it. There also we are having other method of growing paddy without this flood irrigation method also. So wherever possible, kindly conserve water. Drainage. So if the field is in a very waterlogged condition, some fields will be there, so there will be lot of waterlogging problems will be there. As far as horticulture crops are, except paddy, all crops can withhold drought, okay, but serious flooding they can't. So we have to be very careful that when you are going for horticulture crops, even they can manage a drought to certain extent, but not water logging. The water logging will be a serious issue in horticulture crops. So proper drainage. If you are having a water logging field, you should ensure proper drainage, and the water has to be stored in some other farm pond or like that, whether that can be dug in a farm itself. Then water conveyance system. Okay, when we are going for a water conveyance system, earlier we have the mud channels and canals we had. Now, if your budget is okay, we can go for a cement structure, or we can go for a PVC structure. To certain extent, we can have the PVC. Then after that, the water can be connected to a drip, or the water can uh, flow with a normal canal system in the surface irrigation. Then mulching. Mulching, we can go with a natural mulching material. Actually, here and all we are having Tamil name actually Virali Kolai and all, and even fronds of coconut, banana, the leaves, banana leaves can be used for mulching, and they are also giving good nutrients. If you are not able to have the natural mulching system, you can go for plastic mulch. Water conservation exitu, that is out of your farm. um, as a village people, as a village community people, you should have a good water conservation system around your village, so that your farmlands automatically gets recharged in every season. In situ conservation, this is a trough system of watering between two rows. We can have this system of watering, so that the plants will get the water, and we can also add the nutrients and mulching also done here, and this mulched material will decompose, and it will be input or nutrient resource to the plant. Actually, this I am maintaining. I had a field trial in my own farm and got a very good result. And this type of farm ponds also we can have with the cement structure also we can have. And as a low budget, you can go with tarpaulin sheets, or just dug it out and you can plaster with clay, and that also we can make use of. And instead of this, you can go for small trenches. That also we can go for in situ conservation. But ex situ and in situ water conservation is a must. And always advise, when you are going for good agricultural practices, all these in situ and ex situ water conservation measures. And one another important thing in water conservation and water quality management, kindly, now there is a practice that whatever the organic solutions, organic nutrient solutions, they are pouring into the well, and from that they are taking along with the irrigation, they are giving to the plants. Kindly don't do that. And even if it is a microorganism based nutrient solution, kindly avoid that in pouring into the um, water source. Yeah, either um, mainly they are doing it in the open well system. Kindly don't do that. Even if you do, even if you did it, kindly avoid in future, because now you may be knowing, after this coronavirus pandemic, you may be knowing that microorganism mutation. Okay, so if now that microorganism, like effective microorganism solutions and all, we are having it, they are doing good. Okay, they are good microorganism right now, beneficial microorganism for the plant. So we are using as a soil application, or in a liquid formulation we are giving, but we don't, because we don't know whether these microorganisms will get it mutated in a good way or in a bad, in a harmful. So we are not sure about that. So kindly avoid mixing microorganisms in the water source. One other day in future, if we are finding the shortage of water, even for the drinking water, at that time we are going to use our farm well water or farm water resources. So that should not be contaminated at any cost. We are talking about the chemical contaminants and all, but at the same time, always have in mind the microbial contamination. So, if we want to mix the nutrient solution, you just mix it in the tank, water tank, where your water will flow in a water tank, and from that only it will be distributed to the crops. No? In that water tank, you can mix it, but don't mix it in the source. Okay, next we are going for the selection of the seed and planting material. Um, a certificate or known source, we have to take that. And the seed and the planting material should be pest and disease free. And we have to seed and planting treatment techniques we have to take care of. Even if it is in organic also, we can having like a Ghana Jeevamirta, we can mix it, or with the Pseudomonas or Trichoderma, we can mix it. If it is in a conventional material, we have to use it with the Therum and Captain. But how we are telling, no, the soil health management will reduce the work up to 50% in future. The same way, when we give proper seed treatment and the planting material treatment, it will give you some protection uh, from pest and disease in future. Next comes the cattle management. Actually, if you are having goat and sheep, that manure is very good. First preference is goat and um, sheep manure, we can take it. Next comes the cattle manure. Farmyard manure, when you are going for the farmyard manure, and we can prepare all this Panjagavya, Amrita Carousel, that and all things are cattle. So, cattle management also plays an important role. There, better we can get the native breeds because maintenance will be less. Uh, then if you are, but when you are going for a dairy farming, we have to think it in the commercial way. But when you are associating with the only with the farm good agricultural practices, then the cattle management can be in such a way it with less maintenance we can. Then animal well-being has to be respected, and in your farm itself you can have place for natural grazing if it is not available in an open field. uh, Along with that, we have to maintain cattle record registers, and we have to have an eye to prevent chemical and medical residues from entering the food chain, because this is the most problem right now we are facing it. Some people are coming and dumping the chemical and medical industry, mainly hospital waste, in the outskirts of the villages and all. That you should have a vigilant watch on that, and better we have to inform to the our local government bodies, and we have to be careful that it should not enter our food chain. So these are some of the pictures related to that. Integrated management. Okay. When we are talking about organic and inorganic, I am very specific in one thing, that at any cost, if it is an inorganic way of cultivation or organic way of production technology, better don't go for any weedicide at any time of growth of the plant. Even it's a pre-emergence weedicide or pre-cropping weedicide or post-harvest weedicides. Kindly avoid weedicides, because weedicides is the we will be calling them as weeds, because it's an unwanted plant for our crop. Our main crop is something, so we are considering the other crops as weeds. But in nature, the weeds are not actually weeds. They are many weeds are mostly 90% of the weeds are medicinal plants. One way or another, we are using in our Ayurvedic and Siddha medicine. And after this pandemic, we will be knowing about the importance of our traditional medicine system too. So kindly don't go for weedicide at any production, any method of production technology. Okay, so better you can take that as a herbal harvest. For example, in our lands and all, we will be having the acacia. In Tamil, we will be calling it as avaram. It's a very good medicinal plant for diabetes. So we are taking up as a decoction. Or like a herbal tea also we can take that thing. It is having a very good control over diabetes. So, but it is growing as a weed plant in our field. So kindly harvest the plant, and even it belongs to the acacia, no? So they are having the nitrogen fixing capacity. That leaves once again you can in situ ploughing you can do it, or you can dig it and place it in the field itself. So it will enrich the soil. So always you take weeds in such a way that either you can use it as a mulching material, or you can dry it and you can use it as a feed for the cattle, or you can use it as a medicinal plants. You can powder it and you can make use of it. Then there are some biocontrol measures are there, using lime, as a lemon, using lemon, then and cow's urine also we can make weedicides, the natural weedicide. That and all you can make use of it. Better hand weeding and hoeing, we have to practice it. If the labor shortage is more, you can go for a mechanical weeding. Chemical if needed, 99% don't go for that. But again, apart from that, if you want to go, considering the toxic residue and also consider the biodiversity, because the weed plants, some weed plants may act as a trap plant too, for some insects and pests. So the what we are telling as weeds are good when we are going for ecological engineering concept of production technology. So all these will play some part in production of the same way. Next we are coming for the nutrient management. First thing, we have to go for the soil testing. Then only we will be knowing the real nutrient standards of your farm at that point of time. Then after that, we have to think of the basal nutrients, what we are going before planting the tree, or before going for a crop. Then anytime, invariably, what will be your test report and all, you go for green manure crops and adopt crop rotation technology. Um, Mostly use farm in situ bioinputs. When you are going for the organic cultivation, or any cultivation, any normal good agricultural practices, first you go with 75% with organic inputs. That too with farm bio inputs, farm in situ bio inputs. And if you want to purchase bio inputs, there once again we are facing with some problems when we are going for organic certification. When you are going for the organic certification, if the bio inputs is bought from the proper licensed buyer, then only it will be accepted. Otherwise, we can't accept the farm input. So better go with bio inputs with the local material and with your cattle. And at the same time, when we are going for organic certification, the cattle has to be maintained in a natural or organic way. That also will be taken part in that. If we are going to produce some nutrient solution with your cattle products, or at least we have for good agricultural practices, everything has to be the toxicity level has to be tested. So these are some of the integrated nutrient management. Either it may be home prepared, or we can farm prepared, we can use it, or we can buy from a licensed buyer. Then integrated pest and disease management. First we have to, before pest and disease management, we should have as a consultant, we should have a thorough knowledge about the symptoms is
ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
we should have a thorough knowledge about the symptoms caused by the nutrient deficiency, the symptoms caused by the disease causing symptom, and the symptoms caused by the pest, because there are certain differences are there. I think I can't go that in detail now. First, we should know how to differentiate whether it is due to it is a physiological disorder, or it is due to some deficiency of the nutrients, or it is due to some disease spread, or it is due to some pest. That we should have a monitoring techniques, and first eye level monitoring techniques we should have. Then there are some monitoring techniques using some methodology we are having, that we can make use of. Then after that, management method. Management method, the first and foremost method in good agriculture practices is we have to develop an ecological engineering concept, because it will serve the purpose of environmental safety. Because environmental safety is also one of the important points for the gap certification. So when we are going to adopt that ecological engineering concept, this ecological engineering concept, I can just tell the definition for you. We have to maintain a farm in such a way that the farm itself can take care of its pest and disease management, and with a simple monitoring and management support from our intervention. So this is the ecological engineering concept. Then after that, we can think it of the physical. First, we have to physical management measures, then mechanical management measures, then biological. In that, we are going to use both microbials and macrobials. That is microbials that microorganisms, and macrobials predators, parasites, and if needed, chemicals at low dosage if it is necessary. 99% necessary is there means then we can go for chemicals. As a monitoring and management system, we are using traps. In the first figure, you can see that some mud pots are there. We have kept a trap using castor seeds. We have kept a trap for mainly for rhinoceros beetle in coconut. It's a we can make it in our own farm, and it's a home. It's a farm-made trap system. And the second thing is it's a trap for fruit flies. So mainly in the fruit trees, we can have this fruit fly trap, and this blue sticky trap. It can be used for thrips, and this yellow sticky trap can be used for white flies, which cause the mosaic virus disease and vector for many diseases, and also for sucking pest. And this one is the delta trap. This can also be used. And apart from that, we can use the light trap. Light trap, it can be this light trap can be used between 6 and 11 p.m. so that these harmful insects will be trapped during that time, 6 to 11 p.m. After that, 11 p.m. we'll be getting the beneficial insects in the farm. So to avoid killing that, we can have the light trap between 6 and 11 p.m. For that, we can automatically adjust the timing. Solar traps also we can make use of it. As a part of ecological engineering concept, we can release predators and parasitoids, and it is also having a very good effect. For example, redweed bug, lacewing bugs, all these and all, for a broad spectrum of pest for caterpillars, we can make use of it. Trichogramma, redweed bug, green lacewing bugs, all these are for you. We can use for broad spectrum of pests. Then biological control. Here we are using microbes like phosphate enriching bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria, vermins. There is mycorrhiza, some fungus is there, metarrhizum and all, even it can kill the rhinoceros beetle crab. So like that we can use the microbials. Okay. Next comes the that pest and disease management and nutrient management. It itself will take one or 2 hours when we are going in detail. So that integrated pest and disease management and integrated nutrient management we have to take care of, and chemicals only we have to use if the necessary is inevitable. That is the thing. So even in good agriculture practices, we are recommending the same. Then energy and waste management, because this is one of the important point when we are coming for the gap certification. So mostly whatever we are thinking as waste in a field, it is having some usage. So always take wealth from waste. If you are having a decomposed, sorry, you are having some dried leaves and all, you just have a um, um, farmyard farmyard manure pit in the where the in the upper part of your field. Okay, um, there you can have a compost pit, and you can dump all these things, and you can have some even country earthworms, and you can put some handful of earthworms there. Automatically it will decompose. Or else if you want to buy some decomposers also, you can make use of it. Or um, uh, sour buttermilk that can enhance, that can act as a decomposer. So all these things you can make your own compost, and even you can have a vermicompost bed, and you can get the vermicompost manure, and you can get vermi wash from that, and that can be used as a, that is a very good source for secondary nutrients, micronutrients that can be used. So to say 90%, you just think it of what whether we are collecting something waste from the farm that can be used for another purpose. Once again, it can be taken back to the farm itself in one way or in one form, or that way you have to make things. And if you are going for always you have to have in mind of the safe disposal of the waste. Even if you are going for some um, chemical nutrients or chemical pesticide, that bottle has to be disposed properly. And at the same time, um, mulches, plastic mulches, if you are using, once again, it should not give environmental hazards. It has to be properly recycled. So these things are, you have to buy recycled plastics. The same, in that way we have to think. And in machineries, and also we can have for solar powered things we can go for, and you can go for small equipments, or else you can go for a community based hiring system. As a community, you can buy some machineries, and on hiring basis, or like through farm producer organization also, you can buy machinery and you can hire it, so that the money, the investment also will be less, and at the same time the machineries will be also used in a regular fashion. Um, Alternative energy sources. If it is a wind prone area, you can go for wind alternate energy system. And if you are going for jatropha's and pongamias, you can go for biofuels that can be used in your motor system. So in that way, we can make use of it. And many solar related things, farm machineries are coming in, so we can make use of that thing. But when they are when solar disposable, when the disposal is coming, we have to be very careful, because it's a radioactive thing. So the photovoltaic cell has to be properly disposed. Okay, then comes the environment safety. So in each and everything, soil environment, you have to take care. It should be of environment friendly. Water, already I told, no, we should not contaminate water with the chemical contaminants and microbial contaminants. Always we have to have a check on this microbial contamination and residual toxicity. Periodically, you have to test this residual toxicity. Always encourage crop rotations. Manage a good ecosystem. That is the thing. We have to, what we can tell, it's not a farm. You have created a forest, nature, so a nature environment. For building up a nature environment, from that you are getting an income through the quality products. In that way, your mindset should be there. And when you walk into your farmland, you should feel that I am in I am amidst some nature. as a natural ecosystem. I am enjoying, I'm feeling that. So some some calmness I'm getting and a peace of mind. So your field should be in such a way that it ensure environmental safety, and it should be a living place for all the living beings which will be there in a nature. So environmental safety, you should see all these things. Actually, this plant, it will attract um, bees a lot. Actually, it's a weed plant. Even you can see here in a ECR road on either side, you can see this plant. It's a Turnera species. It is a bee attracting plant. This can be there in your garden. And this is a jewel beetle. And here this one is Gloriosa superba. It has grown as a weed plant, but this plant can be commercially grown, and it is a good medicinal plant. These plants will attract some insects, which will be beneficial. And always your farmland can have an apiary, so that pollination will be good and the production capacity will. Finally, we have to come for the worker safety. That is also most important. When you are having some 10 to 20 acres of land, first of all, you have to train your laborers, agri laborers, both skilled and unskilled. You have to train them in a proper way, and we have to give the soft skill training also, so that only their work efficiency will be in a smarter way. So um, hard work is also there, smart work is also there, but right in this current scenario, we need smart working with sincerity. So this smart working we have to imbibe in the laborers group by soft skill training. Then we have to train them into handle machineries and pesticides, because it will sometimes it will cause harm to them. So proper training should be there, and they have to be given the first aid knowledge if they are encountering with some poisonous bites or some wounds, they hurts. If they are encountering that things, they have to know the first aid knowledge. Then apart from that, we are doing in such a way. Actually, in my farm, the farm person who is taking care of my farm, I have adopted their family itself. So how I am supporting them is, actually he is having some 4 children, 4 girl children. I have supported three of them in their education. So automatically it gives him a moral strength. So his execution in the farm is more. It is somewhat human to human relationship. We can maintain it. So moral support we can give by financial aid or through that adopt a farmer. And if you are giving your land on a lease, at that time you can encourage them with interest free loans. Okay, so that after the commodity was sold, he will give back the your principal amount. So final, your output should be with agri produce with food safety. We have to. So we have to have the same all the safety, environmental safety, economic safety, and social safety in harvesting and processing. So when we are talking about organic certification also, mostly we will talk about the produce from the farm, but during processing only, many chemicals has been added. Mainly sulfur is added in many products. So we have to keep an eye on that. There in processing chemical free products to the utmost we have to do. In good agriculture practices, if necessary, they can add for chemicals, but 95% they can avoid. Marketing. So marketing also plays an important role, because when they are when their hard work or smart work and sincerity, it has to be turned into proper income. That is proper marketing system. We are going with that. Direct marketing they can go for, online marketing they can go for, and FPO marketing. Now the FPO community is doing a good job. Along with them, they can go for their own marketing system. Storage also in situ they can go for zero energy chamber. It's a very low cost technology, and in a village level they can go for solar power cooling chamber up to 500 empty metric tons they can store, or else they can go for a full framed cold storage system at block level, or at block level they can go for. So once they have adhered to all these practices, we can encourage them to get the GAP certification. Their global gap is there, in gap is there. Global gap means their certified products can go for the export market. In gap means for the national market with proper remuneration or proper market price, it can be sold. But it's a voluntary scheme only. So this GAP certification, there are set of practices, but first if the farmers adhere to the previously said all these things, automatically when they are going for the GAP certification, it will be very easier. So once they 1 or 2 years, if they are adhering this normal practical approach of the good agricultural practices, after that certification agency can go to them and give awareness about the certification process. Only some document work, paperwork will be there, and some payments they have to pay. Accordingly, they will get the GAP certification. But initially, we have to train the farmers to good agricultural practices in a practical way. Then we can go for the certification process. So in each and every step, when we are going for the good agricultural practices, taking into account the social, environmental, and economic safety, we will be giving the Mother Earth back her lands in a very good way, and at the same time, the Mother Earth also will give us toxic-free food, what we are in much need right. So I think I will complete my session here. Thank you very much for listening patiently till this time. Sorry for the inconvenience caused. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Surya ma'am. It was really an informative presentation, and we can see the practical, experience what you gained over a period of time. We want you to be part of Aditi's team. We are welcoming you to be, one of our advisors. There are many questions, related to IndiGap. Perhaps, we can interact in due course. But there are quite a few things, perhaps we can exchange now.
Okay.
Can we chat, or how? Okay, let me put one by one.
First question, if there are farm animals, can we recommend not to use barbed wire fencing? No? The first question?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Actually, barbed, we should not use fencing, electrical fencing and solar fencing when the cattle is there. Normally, we won't allow, but barbed wires we can go, and our own animals will be grazing inside our land one. So barbed wire is allowed. Solar fencing, it should not give the volt. Electrical volt should not.
Exactly. We did this in our research and development farm, where low voltage solar fencing we put installed, and in fact the cattle came and just touched, and then they used to it, that they never touched the for solar fencing. Only thing is, if the weed grows, there's a high chance of what is that fuse get affected.
Yeah. Only thing we have to be care of when we are having cattle in our own land, when we are having our farm pond, that area they should not go.
Yeah, of course. The pond has to be protected from
farm. Actually, cattle has to be protected from the farm, but they should not fall in the farm pond. In that way, we have to protect.
Yeah, great.
Grazing is the normal activity of cattle. Yeah, as far as concerned, we should avoid chemicals, because very commercially, if they are going for very commercial things, that too, if necessary, they can go for chemicals.
Mhm.
Not only for organic certification, any good agricultural practices only needs chemical when and where the need is most appropriate. That too, we have to use in a optimized and efficient.
Mhm. Now, my question there is, since the cattle are, naturally, prefer to graze in an open field,
Okay.
cattle management should be a part of the, SOP, or what is that, farm management system,
Yes.
where the farmer clearly, plan which part of the farm they will allow to graze, so that
Yes.
crop also not get affected. But cattle movement itself, do a lot of things. Dabbling, all type of, soil, structure and structure maintenance activities, including, plowing part. This is what, we need to study more on this. I want you to be part of that research and development activity, in fact. Otherwise, none of the GAP or global certified farm talks about any cattle management in detail.
Actually,
Because when we look for, self sustainability for, completing the biodegradation or recycling of the biomass, cattle's role is very, very important. That's what we feel. As you rightly say, indicated, it has to be included in the management system.
yes.
Yeah.
Actually, cattle management will also go hand with the farm management.
Mm-hmm.
Each and everything also, even from vaccination, we have to check it there.
Yeah, if this is vaccinated, kind of waiting period, right?
Yeah, and from their milk also we have to see the toxic
Withdrawal.
vessels.
Yes, withdrawal. Yes,
That
fine.
we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
When we are going for global gap and all, it will be compulsory.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. Then about the deep, borewell water irrigation, many a time, we had to find, good analysis of the water. It's always have alkalinity. As you rightly said, one should have a plan to, improve the surface water conservation. And as you rightly said, I think surface water has to be, promoted, including the, rainwater harvest system. Yeah. Then the drip irrigation part, where there are high chance of clogging, as you rightly said. How they generally clean and where they drain out the,
Actually, the problem is they will go with hydrochloric acid wash.
Mm-hmm.
Then once again, if it is an organic farm, when you are going for drip, they should not use hydrochloric acid there. So normally what we will recommend means we will recommend them with a PVC type of or optical fiber type of irrigation system.
Mm-hmm.
Then drip. When there is no right now, from to my knowledge, there is no bio agent to clean the clogging.
Okay.
Okay, so only with mild hydrochloric acid only they are cleaning the clogging system. But I don't know whether they have come up with that type of any economically friendly materials.
Yeah.
But mostly they are using hydrochloric acid. Once again, we have to test with the residual toxicity.
Yeah.
Because of that, if it any happens.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you recommend, if they use deep borewell water, filters, sand filters is must.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Filtering system is must.
Mm-hmm.
And Venturi system is also must.
Okay. Then, sorry, I hope I can take 2 more minutes. Yeah. And
yeah.
about the plastic mulching, how long that can be used, and
3 years. When
3
we are
years,
using,
because in many areas I found, if it is exposed to sunlight, it gets brittle and mixed with the soil.
Yeah, actually good quality materials means 3 years, because it is UV stabilized material only we are recommending it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then the damage will be less. Otherwise, it is also creating a problem. So that only I told that plastic mulch has to be properly disposed.
Yeah. But if it is treated, will it affect the soil microflora and fauna? In a
Surely,
such
surely,
yeah.
surely,
So,
surely. So better we have to go for natural mulching, sir.
mhm.
When you are going for a raised bed cultivation,
Yeah.
first you have to have a layer of raised bed. Then
Mhm.
after that, we have to have a mulching.
Yeah.
Then after that, raised bed. So that it will be a under mulching system will be there.
Mhm.
We have to allow some time for to decompose. After that, we have to make use of it.
Good.
And along the basing for tree crops, along the basing, some 1 feet away from the trunk, we can go for this mulching, a closed mulching system we can go.
Mhm.
Because of open mulching system, sometimes it will invite poisonous animals. So like snakes and all. Reptiles, mainly reptile problems will be there. So open mulch also we can't. Otherwise, better they can decompose in a pit and they can take it back and they can apply it to the field.
Mhm. You mean Pambu? I mean,
Palm, yes, sir, yeah.
oh, mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing.
But
You know, we have
snakes
to.
will be there. Snakes
Yeah.
will be there. Rodents will be there. Rodents can be easily avoidable by planting pudina, mentha, mint
Okay.
plant. So
Okay.
there are some techniques are there, but they have to properly adopt it.
Mhm.
And for snakes also we are having that Nahadali, then Syrianangai, some plants which will repellent and repellent sticks are there, so that the farmer can have the snake charm repellent sticks with them, like a walking stick it will be there, they can make use of it.
Mhm.
So a lot of things are there, but the people has to be aware of it. The farmers has to be aware of it, and we are also keep on telling it, but they have to listen to our words.
Mhm. So risk management is very important, you know, before they go for IndiGap or Global Gap certification, right? So one must spend the time, you know, minimum 6 months to understand what is their, you know, environmental system. This is our experience also, you know, we came across peacock, you know, issue. We
Peacock
brought,
issue.
you know, you used a fish net to, you know, control those, but you know, it will have another effect. Like Pambu, for example, got, you know, entangled, and you know, there are a couple of incidences, you know.
But it
It's
will
very sad.
happen. We have to have some portion for that damage too.
Mhm.
Even in the produce. Accordingly, only we have to work it out. When we are going for a naturally ecosystem, some loss will be there because of these natural functioning of the natural ecosystem in the
Yeah.
produce.
Yeah.
That we have to make aware of the farmers about that thing. The last percentage, some 10% will be there.
Yeah. That means habitat, you know, maintenance is very important, right?
Important. Ecological engineering concept mainly deals with the habitat.
Mhm.
It has to pave way for all the fauna and flora has to be happily inhabited in that.
Great. Great. Yeah. Lastly, I think the VD side part, you know, we have to sensitize the farmers now, because we have, you know, practical experience in nearly Tirunelveli Ambasamudram area.
Okay.
You know, paddy cultivation area. 3-4 years we collected, you know, soil and water samples. Still we find that DDT and BSC residue. Same thing with the glyphosate, you know, Roundup.
Okay.
In you know, tea and coffee estates, you know, being used indiscriminately, and it spoils even the spring water. As you rightly said, you know, whatever the, you know, leftover BD-side solutions, they drain it out to the spring water, which is, you know, but there's a risk of, you know, usage for. So this is one thing that we also want to sensitize our farmers through our newsletter, and
you have to
you know,
sensitize two things, sir. One thing is this weedicide usage, and then another thing is microbial contaminants.
Yeah, that's a news what you know, your presentation given, because if they dump the, you know, microbial culture to water source, certainly I'm sure it will have very bad effect. And last in the point, I mean, I don't want to take too much time, about pre-harvest intervals.
Okay.
Whether we have a, you know, very defined and practical for every crops, vegetables and fresh food pre-harvest intervals. Is it only the recommendation by the pesticide or in chemical what do you call industrious recommendation we follow, or we have to follow something else like
Pre-harvest or,
HACCP?
Post-harvest you are asking, or
Yeah,
pre-harvest?
pre-harvest. If something is
No.
sprayed.
Before harvest. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Good agricultural practices. 1 month before any harvest, there should not be any chemical or any spray.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
We should avoid that. Yeah, any pesticide or that spray, we have to avoid it.
Yeah.
So when we are maintaining the land from soil health, automatically we won't face any difficulty when the crop comes to the harvest. Minimum at least 15 days it should be free of any sprays. They can go for neem spray, neem oil, or any botanical pesticides.
With your experience, madam, what is the best time for collecting samples to check the MRL? I mean, general, vegetables.
Okay. You have to do it during 3 periods, sir. At the completion of the vegetative period, and the between flowering and fruiting, and before harvest.
Okay.
Of any crop.
Yeah, maybe 10 days before harvest or something like
10 days before. One thing, at the end, first always we'll do the soil first before planting, then after the vegetative phase, then in between flowering and fruiting phase, and on the fruit phase, after fruit phase.
Really appreciate, madam, for your valued time and all those sharing the experiences. I leave it to others if there are any questions.
Otherwise we can end up the session.
Yes, so kind of you. Vanakkam, madam, thank you for your valued time and all the knowledge which you have shared with us. We are inviting, or we will send this one proposal in the pen. We want you to be part of our advisory team, or part of our team, because in addition to inspection and certification activity, we also want to do service to needy farmers, especially with respect to INDIGAP, and we are one of the provisionally approved CB certification bodies, but it's not taken up in our country. Especially we want to cater to small and marginal farmers. For them, complying with the INDIGAP requirement is not that easy, very challenging, that. But we ask many details. 180 indicators are there covering 10 subjects. Practically, they find it difficult, but it is possible with the available resources and the knowledge what people like you are having, and
proper awareness and training, sir. That is the most important thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. We will keep in touch.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you participants too, because I think 1.5 hours they have listened patiently. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and I will share the YouTube link, sir, after uploading it, so that you can